Welcome to Manhwa Recaps. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. The series starts by explaining to us about the land of Idian. It is a place where you don't age, and you must endlessly fight monsters. Also known as the playground of gods. It was the place where this man who died on the Drea continent awakened. Like him, those who were dragged here without knowing why joined forces with one another, and called themselves players. He says in this hell where you must fight endlessly without aging, he fought countless battles, and after spending over 100 years on the brink of life and death, to reclaim his stolen freedom he finally challenged him, the one who created this hell solely for his own amusement, the god of Idian. But he isn't there yet, as we see him slice down a monster, but there are others still alive stopping his path. The man smirks, and uses his ability to raise the dead, creating an army behind him. He says that he thought if he just held on a little longer it would be over. But no matter how long he fought for, constantly rebuilding his army, all the other players had failed, leaving only him. But his path was cleared by this point. We see him walking somewhere, and he starts to laugh. We finally learn that his name is Ryun. Due to all the other players who have been turned into statues, calling out for him for liberation, begging that he set them free from this hell. He looks up into the sky, saying that this bastard is the cause of all of it, and that this is the true god of Idian. Just his gaze alone makes him shiver. The god calls him by his full name. Ryun Sermon. He knows he is from the fallen great noble house on the Drea continent. He gets captured by Faden, another great noble house that attacked his family. He was tortured for years, and came to Idian only after dying. Ryun yells telling him to shut up. The god says after that in just 100 years he reached master level in all three classes, which are Ghost, Assassin, and Necromancer, and he sure does find it interesting. Ryun asks why he would trap him in this hell for eternity, wondering if he truly finds this fun. He snaps his finger, and a bright light blinds Ryun. There is a massive explosion that soon follows, destroying almost the entire land around them, and it also puts a hole in Ryun's side. The god smiles, asking him if he has any last words that he would like to say, as he will grant him one wish. Ryun says he doesn't need that, and the god says he might not know it, but he's already made a wish, as he begins to fade out. We get a flashback to a manor, but we're deep down in the prison. We hear a man screaming, and we see Ryun chained up covered in blood. There are torture devices covered in blood too. These are tools that are being used on him. A man raises his head saying that he is amusing, and that his clan's direct line inherits any talent as if blessed, but that is all except for him. The man smiles before then piercing his chest, causing him to spit up a ton of blood. He says that he was cursed, and born with nothing, yet his life is really hard to snuff out. Ryun utters the word please, and the man asks what he is saying. The next words that Ryun says are not really intelligible, and the dude laughs at him, saying that he has no idea what he is trying to say, and that he should have left his tongue in place. He thought he might extract something from the Sermon bloodline, but even this is getting dull. He tells Ryun to try not to die today, and we learn that he is part of the Faden household, and that his name is Sons. He is celebrating the 3rd anniversary of wiping out House Sermon. Ryun sits in his cage in his prison cell, resting his head on the floor. Later that night we see him sitting up against the wall, and he says that through the wall he has been sitting for 3 years, and his House Sermon were a family guarding the front lines against monsters. The monsters constantly emerged from the Dark Zone in an attempt to invade the continent of Drea, and among the 5 great houses of the Drea continent, Sermon was the mightiest, and most renowned. But with the sudden disappearance of his father and his elder brothers, the house declined at a terrifying speed. The Faden house did not miss the chance to crush them, and what they wanted was the blessing passed down of the Sermon line, the blood of the dragon. Those who carry their blood become 7th circle archmages at 10, and sword masters at 15, but Ryun was not among them. Once in several centuries a curse appears in the house, which is the curse of the demon king Archon, and he inherited that curse. Due to it he could never learn any swordsmanship, or magic. He sits there saying that if only he had strength, or if he wasn't cursed, he would never have let them trample them, and he wouldn't have had to suffer any of Sons' horrific experiments, or torture. He starts to cry, saying that he is too tired even now to regret. He can feel today that this is the end of him, and at least he can rest. As he closes his eyes, rats begin devouring his flesh. That is how he got into Idian to begin with, and how he suffered for over 100 years constantly fighting monsters, but also being the only player to have challenged God, and even though he failed, God still granted him a wish. That is when he opened his eyes as a woman is calling out to him over and over. He instantly jolts up, and we learn that her name is Colin. She says that he is already frail enough, So how could he work himself sick? He says that this is the nanny of their house, and he wonders why she is standing before him, and she looks really young too. He then starts to have an idea of what happened, and tells her to bring a mirror quickly. She does so, and when he looks at his reflection he asks her what day it is. She says it is the 17th of August, year 1892. He starts to do some quick maths, and says that was when he was 12 years old, and it is also at the same time that their house sermon began its downfall at the hands of Fatin. He wonders if this is all because of his wish to God. Another man enters the room saying that when Ryun didn't wake up he thought he was faking again. Ryun tells us that his name is Alejandro, and he is captain of the Sermon Knights. He tells Ryun that he seems truly unwell, and in that case he may skip today's training. Colin goes to say something to him, but Ryun cuts her off. They are both surprised that he is speaking up to him, and Ryun says that he is fine. More importantly, he wants to know what today's training is. Alejandro is surprised that he is refusing a break, and tells him that it is longsword footwork practice. Ryun walks over grabbing his training sword, and Alejandro asks if he hit his head too hard. Ryun says that he did, leaving him speechless. Ryun says that to him it doesn't matter if this was because of the wish, or if it was just a normal regression, but regardless this chance to set everything right. He tells Alejandro that he wants to skip the footwork drills, and go straight into monster hunting. A little later we see him looking at his status window as well as the fact that the curse is SS rank, meaning he cannot accumulate mana, and some other stuff. Ryun just says it's a relief that he can open the status window even after regression, but also it's a unique ability that no one else on the continent currently possesses. Alejandro tells him that the monster is ready. Ryun hides his status window heading outside, and we see a goblin chained up, straight tweaking because his shit was laced. The monster growls, flailing its arms at Ryun as Ryun points his sword at him. Alejandro and Colin watch, and Colin says that they should stop this, and as the knight captain he knows as well as she does that the young master faints just from facing a goblin for a moment. Ryun says that she's right, and that would have been true if it was the him of yesterday. He closes his eyes, saying that now he can tell why exactly he was so afraid, and that's due to the Demon King's curse, meaning that his fear of monsters is amplified as the system gives him a warning. He says that he didn't think that this was also part of the Demon King's curse, but now he's glad he knows. Alejandro sighs, saying that's enough for today, but Ryun says that it's not, and he starts charging forward. He takes a step forward towards the goblin, and it's still tweaking. But of course the fear sets in, and he takes a step back, but he tells himself to stay calm as he is not the same Ryun of the past, and his opponent is just a single goblin, and he knows he can do this. Compared to the threats he felt in Idian, a curse like this is nothing. He thinks about the god's gaze, using it as a way to block his fear of the goblin, and leaps forward hitting it on the head. Alejandro is stunned, and Colin is just panicked. Due to him having overcome the curse through an experience that transcends it, the rank of the curse is downgraded. The goblin looks up at him, raising its hand telling him to wait, saying that hit has knocked the fent right out of him and he can see clearly now. The status window tells him that he no longer feels fear towards monsters. Ryun tells Alejandro that he wants a real sword, but Alejandro asks if he'll really be okay. Ryun smiles at him, and Alejandro says that finally today the young master has become a man. He walks back over towards the goblin, raising his blade, and kills it on the spot. Alejandro tells Colin to watch closely, as that figure is truly the next head of House Sermon without a doubt. A little later that day Ryun is washing his face, and looking in the mirror. He says the status window and the system's assistance were both effective, allowing him to overcome the Demon King's curse, and it verified that he can grow. However, the problem is that even though he did gain some experience points, it was way too little, meaning at this rate he'll have to hunt tens of thousands of goblins just to level up. He needs to hurry because the day when their house falls is approaching, but the fact that it is confirmed that he can overcome the curse was huge, and he can't miss this opportunity. The current situation of the house is that it has been 2 years since his father and brothers went missing, and it is a moment where they are maintaining their position as a great house, just right before the enemies started their schemes, and now that he's confirmed one method to level up it means that he should try to verify if there are any alternative methods. We see a woman entering the estate, and she heads up instantly to the second floor telling Ryun she heard about the goblin hunt. Even so she wants to know why he called her here, asking if it's for magic training. Ryun explains that she is the leader of their magic corps named Sana. Like Alejandro, she is a 7th circle archmage, of which there are a few on the continent. She is a mysterious woman whose background and true nature are unknown to anyone but the family head and father. She says surely he's not getting arrogant just because he caught one goblin, and magic training is different from swordsmanship. Surely he hasn't forgotten that they didn't proceed because he has no talent. Ryun says of course he remembers that, and that was only because of the curse which strips away all of the talent he had, but that was all until yesterday, and he tells her that he can actually sense mana. Shortly after she sets down her tea, then begins to release her mana. She tells Ryun that he can open his eyes now, and she's drawn a picture in front of him that he can only see with mana, and if what he said is true, then she wants him to tell her what she drew. He says that it's a red dragon. She looks surprised, then he asks if he's wrong. She says that he's not, but that he's really changed since yesterday, asking how. Unless he understands mana at a level similar to hers, he shouldn't be able to see it, as she set up a mechanism to make it look like something other than a dragon. If she starts to think about how on earth he broke the family's curse, then she definitely taught him how to sense mana, but this is much different. He tells her that even though he can sense mana, he can't use the mana cultivation method passed down in the family, which is why he needs her help. She looks surprised. Ryun says that mana can't be used unless it settles in, and mana cultivation must be another method for leveling up. She sighs, saying that means he's already tried it, but surely he understands what he just asked her, because helping with mana cultivation means tearing into his body to guide the mana, and she'd be holding his life in her hands. He smiles, asking if she's trying to kill him, and she freaks out saying no. He says that he couldn't resist her in the first place, so if she wanted him dead, she would have killed him. The only person he can think of asking for help is her, because even in his previous life when they were attacked, she sacrificed her life to save him, and she used up all of her mana, causing her body to fall apart due to the recoil. He stretches his hand out towards her, saying that he trusts her more than anyone. A little later he takes off his clothes, and kneels in front of her, and she says that she'll begin now. He also says that the blue earth cultivation method is passed down only to the direct line of the family, and he only explained the theory to her, yet she can already use it to guide the mana, and the cultivation method is something that he actually used in Edian too, to raise his stats, and levels, and he's sure it'll work here too. She tells him he needs to concentrate, and she puts her hand on his back, saying that he might feel an intense pain, but he must not make a sound, and he can't thrash around either. Even if it becomes too much to bear he must not think about stopping. Ryun says the pain is something that he's felt many times, especially at the hands of Fatin when he was tortured for years. He grits his teeth, and tells her to trust in him. She says she understands, and begins to release even more mana than she was previously. As it flows throughout his entire body, the status window appears, telling him that the curse has been activated, causing the mana to disperse. She says that this is just as the family had described, but this was expected, so she'll inject just a bit more mana. The curse activates again, and again, and again. He says the notification only reaches him, but it means the curse is trying to disperse the mana, and she's using her mana to overcome it. The outcome is obvious, even a 7th circle grand mage's mana can't overcome the highest grade curse, but if he applies the training method from Edian he'll let the curse that ruptures mana rebound. In the moment the mana disperses, if he confines that range within his body, the curse is deceived, and the mana remains inside of him. Sana is surprised, saying that the dispersed mana isn't leaving his body anymore. The status window tells him that he has successfully resisted the curse, but it activates again right after, and this cycle continues over and over. Ryun says that there's a really hot burning sensation along the path that the mana moves, but he won't give into it as he has endured this kind of pain thousands of times, and is the only person to even challenge God within Edian. His understanding of mana surpasses practically anyone else's, and is remembered by his soul, not his body. While he's never seen the Demon King himself, a mere Demon King definitely won't be comparable to the god of Edian. The mana starts to flow up into his head, and he screams as if he has some kind of breakthrough. Sana looks worried. As the mana starts to subside, Ryun collapses. She calls out to him, and he says that it hurts like hell, and his consciousness is fading, but it's okay, because compared to the pain from back then this is nothing. We get a flashback as well of him when he was being tortured, and somebody broke in, and fought off the guards. Ryun though lost too much blood to see who it was, and when he opened his eyes again, he was outside. What he saw was a trail of blood, wondering how he got here. He then hears a familiar voice asking if he's conscious, as he sees an older Alejandro, who apologizes for being late. Ryun asks if he came to save him, and Alejandro laughs, saying that he did, but he's sorry that this is as far as he could go, and he died on the spot. Ryun wakes up, as it was just a dream, but the tears keep rolling down his face. He wonders if the cultivation succeeded, saying that he should be cheering with joy, but seeing that memory again made all those feelings of happiness disappear. But it's okay, because he won't let it happen again, because now he has a means to stop it, but he won't allow anyone else to discover it, especially House Faden, and he'll be the most cautious around them until he's strong enough to defeat them, meaning his next action is to accelerate the downfall of his family's house. What is bro cooking? A little later he says it seems like he ended up failing the mana refining method, and as both Alejandro and Sanaa look surprised, Ryun says that he does feel a little guilty about lying to them, but he can't tell them the truth. While it's not a secret, he's not unable to tell them the truth, he just doesn't think telling them the truth would even help, or if they would even believe his story, but that's another matter entirely. He says that everyone has had high expectations for him, so he did try, but now he can't even feel a speck of mana, telling Sanaa that she can check for herself if she wants. She says that she doesn't know why he's denying his success, but if he excuses her she'll do exactly that. She'll test. As she puts her hand on his, then begins to use mana detect, she starts to send her mana throughout his body, seeing if there's any response. She looks surprised, saying that there's no way this is possible, and it truly did disappear. Yesterday she was 100% certain that he had mana flowing into him, but now it's all gone. She starts to cry, and walks away. Alejandro looks worried, but he tells Ryun not to be disappointed, and at least the monster hunt was a success, and he can focus on his swordsmanship. Ryun says he actually realized he can't do it a second time, and as his hands start shaking he says that after that even eating became difficult, and surely he heard from Colin already. Alejandro's dreams start to crumble too, and we get a time skip of a few months. We see Colin out in the hallway saying that Ryun didn't come out again yet today, and that his mother, who is the acting head, doesn't even have the blood of Sermon in her, but she's the only one moving to maintain the family's legacy, but that too is starting to reach its limit. Another butler asks if Ryun stayed in his room again today, and Colin says that he did. Dude says that it's been about 3 months since he was seen defeating a monster in the training ground, and now he hears that he barely listens to Alejandro either. Another maid says that if a person changes suddenly then they will die, and that's a saying that's been going around for a while now. Colin says that's not true, and that day Ryun tried so hard to meet everyone's expectations. The butler says that he's called the ruin of the Sermon family, but that's not only something he's called within their estate, but inside of the kingdom as well. People go even further calling him the family's failure. Colin says this is way too much hate for somebody who's only 12, and the butler says the higher the expectations the greater the disappointment. This is especially true for a noble family. They even talk about how employees quitting is becoming more common, and the butler says he'll be leaving after this month, asking Colin what she will do. We see Ryun reaching for his utensils, and he says that the food quality is dropping, which means the family's finances must be getting serious, and that everything is going exactly according to plan. If it were him in the past, knowing nothing, he'd be using the remaining wealth to try to sort out things, and revive the family, but his current self with his experience in Indian, everything is different. He'll lie low, and wait, letting the enemies drop their guard, and use that chance to slit their throats. The downfall began with the sudden disappearance of his father, and his brothers, but also the mages who went searching since they never returned. Now that their family lacks both manpower and resources to send more search parties, it means that even the training grounds, which used to be full of talented people, is full of nothing but incompetent knights, and unmotivated servants. Even the retainers of other nobles who once tried to get close to the next family head saw this disaster, and turned away never to visit again. Thanks to that everything has become quiet, and he can freely pretend to lock himself in his room, but the pace of this collapse is slower than he expected, and they do say wealthy families take 3 generations to fall. So starting tomorrow he'll need to push even harder. Colin barges into his room, telling him that it's training time, as Alejandro is waiting for him. He looks annoyed, and rolls over covering himself, saying that he wants to rest today too. She rips the sheets off, and forcibly grabs onto him, Princess carrying him, and she says that she will never leave the Sermon family, and starts to take him to the training hall, and Ryun laughs saying that this was pretty unexpected. Alejandro asks why he's holding his sword like that when he's told him many times not to, and even if he failed once, the mana he felt that one time is enough for him to do it again, and again, and the swordsmanship he's learning right now is just naturally letting the flow of mana swing by the blade. Ryun says that it seems they haven't given up yet, and he wants to repay that loyalty and passion, but he can't let them find out that he's been secretly training at night, and using the body control skill. It's a skill from Indian that was useful for assassination, which deceives others about the body's condition, and right now it's already half activated. We see his experience increase, and his stamina and strength both increase by 1. He starts shaking, saying that it happened just as he thought about it, and he runs away saying that he's going to go take a shit real quick. He heads to his room, saying that as he thought it was too unstable to use, and if he moves too abruptly the control breaks. He opens his status window, and we see that he's now level 3, and his stats are much higher than when he first showed us them. The curse of the Demon King is also only B rank, and he says that everything's going smoothly, and that the 3 months of secret training is finally paying off. Once all of his stats are at the 20s, he'll start leveling up properly, and he'll get his first job, which would be Ghost. As he walks out of his room, he spots Alejandro with a guest, asking who it is, but he then recognizes him as the family's chief butler named Truno. Truno says that he's sorry for interrupting his training, and hands him a note. Ryun says that this is different than before his regression, and judging by the timing he must be here to deliver this letter only. Ryun opens it, and Alejandro says that it's about time. Inside the letter it talks about how it's an invitation to the birthday party of the Darren Kingdom's second prince, Kyle. Ryun says this is exactly what he was looking for, and this is the final piece of the family's downfall that he was missing for the puzzle. Now on the way there we see Ryun yawning, and Truno asks if he's finally awake, as he's been sleeping soundly ever since they departed. Ryun says Colin was choosing his clothes until it was late last night, and it was hard stopping her when she insisted on following him. He says he understands, and since neither Alejandro nor Sana are coming with them, nobody expected a massive monster horde to appear at this time. Ryun says the timing was unbelievable, and the main role of the Sermon family is to prevent monsters from the Dark Zone from crossing into the Drea continent, and Alejandro was dispatched to the border to handle that mission, and Sana left due to his mother's sudden summons. Since this is a call from Guyan, who is acting as the family head, there was no way to refuse, and now a 12-year-old kid is heading to the royal capital as the family's representative. Truno tells him there's nothing to worry about, and there's no one in the Darren Kingdom bold enough to lay a hand on the direct line of the Sermon family. Ryun says that's only true if it was the Sermon of the past, and because in the past sending a servant to congratulate them during a royal event would have been enough, and now that the family has fallen, the family head must personally attend the prince's birthday party, but he's the one who created the situation in the first place, so he might as well own up to it. Truno says that he can see it now, and it is the royal capital of the Darren Kingdom named Derbin, which looks pretty large. The carriage arrives, and we see a whole party welcoming them. Ryun starts to exit with Truno, and a man welcomes Ryun, calling him the Dragon of Drea. This is Kyle, the second prince of the kingdom. Truno says it's an honor to meet him, and he and Ryun both bow to him. While Truno thanks him for the hospitality, Ryun says he's not too sure about the hospitality part, and from the gate to the castle he could feel the gazes of the citizens staring at their carriage. They were all staring at his family, knowing that they're on the verge of collapse, and there were rumors spreading about him, and how he's a hopeless troublemaker, and apparently the downfall of the family is just around the corner. Ryun says he can see their hidden ridicule and contempt, and that everything is going according to plan. He introduces himself very awkwardly, and Truno facepalms. The nobles start to whisper amongst themselves, and Ryun says he should keep playing along to their tune. They head inside, and we see some of the people from the carriage saying that they arrived here a week before the birthday party to escort Ryun. It's been 5 days since he's entered here, and they arrived early to interact with other envoys from the kingdom, but surely he saw it as well when they arrived. Ryun was unable to greet the other nobles, and the moment he reached his room he hasn't stepped outside once. It's been 5 days, and the castle is full of everybody else giving pre-birthday celebrations, and so there's delicious food, alcohol, and women. One of them says that since everyone is complaining, they sent the youngest to convince the young master. The dude comes back telling them that Ryun actually plans to attend the banquet today, and he hopes that the escorts prepare as well. They high-five each other saying this is good, and the dude tells them that he also wants them to keep it a secret until the event, especially from Director Truno. The escort needs preparations, and reports. They both tell him it's fine, and they can actually go to the banquet now. They make their way running down the hall, and Ryun says they should calm their complaints. He spent the past few days training freely with no distractions anyways, and attending the banquet isn't just for the escort's sake, and as he has a much bigger goal. Because today a special guest is coming, and it's none other than sons from his previous life, and his main goal this time. Later that evening the men tell everybody in the banquet hall to prepare themselves for the young master of Faden to enter. The doors open, and Sons makes his appearance. He looks over, and Truno tries to avoid his gaze, but Sons walks over greeting him. Truno says that for him to be here personally Prince Kyle will be shocked. Sun says that he heard that Sermon family arrived first, but he wonders where Ryun is, and he's been hearing a lot about him, and he can't wait to meet the famous one from the rumors. Truno looks a bit surprised, asking what he means by famous. Sun says that everybody else here must have heard as well about the downfall of Sermon, and the story of Ryun. Truno says that he seems to be making noise with the expectations of his family behind him, and because he is a 15-year-old who reached the 5th magic circle, but for him to insult the Sermon family in their home kingdom's banquet hall is too much. Sun says that of course the rumors can't be true, and he thinks that the culprit who spread them should be punished for disgracing the name of a noble family. Truno says that he knows all about this kid's history, and at 7 years old he started drinking, and at 12 he killed a commoner from their territory, and he's a huge shitbag. Everybody then says that the Dragon of Drea is entering as we see Ryun making his way through the doors. Truno wonders why he's only coming out now when he's been locked up for so long, but we also see that Ryun is dressed up a lot for this, and he's really giving off a noble look. Even the other nobles say that the rumors must have been exaggerated because his appearance is dignified, and so there's no way the downfall is true. Sun starts to get annoyed, saying that again, the moment the name Sermon is mentioned all the attention that should be his is taken away. Ryun walks over to him, and greets him, saying that he's heard a lot about him from his brother Raz, which is the 4th son who is missing. Sun says that if it's stories he also knows quite a few. Ryun says that his brother Raz said that Sun's is a very kind person, and he knows they attended the academy together. No one at the academy hasn't heard the rumors about Sun's, and even though he left after just a few months, that's just how famous he was. Sun's wonders what he's playing at, and Ryun says that he heard about how he helped a student who was bullied, and helped resolve the suffering of a female student who was harassed, but of course he was the one doing it all. He says that his brother said something else as well, and it was something about a knee. Truno butts in, saying that when Raz's knee was hurting apparently he brought him good medicine, and the Knight Commander had something he wanted him to pass on to him, and he forgot to mention it. Ryun smirks, and walks past Sun's as Truno drags him away. Ryun though of course wanted Sun's to feel this way, but he can't show it so he holds it back to keep face. Ryun says that he needs to get angrier than this, and because his rage is an important seed for the future. Right after the banquet, in his room Sun's is throwing a tantrum, saying it's all because of that bastard Ryun. As expected, Raz already knew, and it's not that he quit the academy, but he was expelled, and even though they used Faden's power to silence everyone so nothing would leak out, he can't believe that Raz knew about his expulsion, and more so Truno knew as well, and that humiliation is something he can't believe he had to experience. We get a flashback to him panting, and we see Raz telling him that he crossed a line he never should have, and Sun says that he didn't know she was his lover, and he just thought it was admirable for a commoner to enter the academy, and so he wanted to be kind to her. Raz says that before commoner or noble she is a fellow student in the academy just like them, and he used magic to harm a female student, and he should get on his knees right now, and beg for forgiveness, and because if he does not sincerely he'll cast aside his family name, and kill him. Sun starts to cry, and drops to his knees. The flashback ends with him starting to pull out his hair. He says that he needs to carry out his plan, and forget Raz for now, and at the very least he needs to silence his younger brother, and he'll soon be facing a harsh fate. There's a knock on the door, and Suns tells him to come in. A man then enters, and Suns says this is quite unexpected, that he asked for a secret midnight meeting, and it's none other than Truno. Some time later we see Ryun on a carriage saying that everything he planned during the party went exactly as intended, and seeing the image of the rumors, and becoming seen as an intelligent yet unfortunate young family head without the talents of a mage or knight, and even Suns took the bait perfectly. Truno tells him that he only wants to say this now, and the conduct at the banquet and birthday celebration was great, and it made him feel that the spark of hope within the family hadn't died out yet. Ryun asks what he's talking about, and as not only did he not build a single other connection, he caused a conflict with the son of the Faden family. Truno says regardless his behavior in front of Suns was exhilarating. Ryun smirks, and then hits a button on the wall that causes a barrier to appear around the entire carriage. Truno asks him why he's doing this, and Ryun stares straight at him. Truno continues asking why he activated the carriage's soundproofing out of nowhere, and Ryun says that if he truly believes what he just said about the spark of hope not being extinguished, then he would have never chosen to betray the Sermon family. Truno starts to sweat nervously asking what he's saying, and Ryun tells him that his crimes are serious and unforgivable, but because he committed them for the sake of the family, they can't be forgiven. Truno looks surprised, but also regretful, asking him how much he knows. Ryun says he knows it was unavoidable, and so he'll give him a chance, and he listens to what he's about to say, and let his judgment remain his own as it always has been. He continues telling him it throughout the night, and he and Truno go back and forth until he asks him how he could think of something like this, and as this isn't something that a mere child should be able to think of, and he asks who exactly he is. Ryun glares at him. Truno starts to have a mental breakdown that turns into a laugh crying, and he says that he feels like he can burst into tears right now. Ryun says that he already knows what choice he'll make, and that he's already stepped off the royal path. Truno just wonders how he can smile like that knowing what's coming, but says that's maybe the wrong thing to call it, and as that's not a smile, it is a cruel and chilling murderous intent. The carriage comes to a stop, and the knights ask the carriage driver why he isn't going anymore. He's then surprised as he sees that the man's been poisoned. An arrow then flies in from behind, and he deflects it, telling everybody that there's an ambush, and they need to protect the carriage. Ordering the mages deploy their barriers first, and the knights say that they should be ashamed for attacking the Sermon family, but the ambush continues. One of the men yells out for the chief, and he tells them not to approach the carriage while the barrier is up, and because even allies could be cut down, but they tell him that's the problem, and the young lord is gone. The chief wonders what's going on. Meanwhile, we see Truno starting to ride away. For some reason, he's breathing mad heavy. We see Ryun tied up on the back of the horse. He has multiple status effects applied such as darkness, sensory anomaly, and physical deterioration. No wonder so much time is passing. There are way too many spells than what was agreed upon. By now, the guards of the family must be in an uproar. In his previous life, after he was kidnapped in this incident, they poured all their efforts into finding him, the last remaining direct heir aside from his younger sister. But the family's fortune collapsed rapidly, and eventually, the family completely fell. But with his current state, he can use today's incident to turn it into something that serves its purpose. We see what he was discussing with Truno was about disguising the downfall. Ryun explains to him that the family situation is already at a critical point, and if he shows them that he's striving to save the house now, other noble families sensing danger will surely try to restrain them. If they unite and attack, the current family wouldn't stand a chance. Which is why he intentionally spread rumors to show that the last remaining direct heir is no threat to them, and make them let their guards down. However, even if other noble families don't, and the Fadden family are the kind to trample even the seeds of his family, even if that rumor buys him time, it's obvious they won't let him live, and which is why he needs to use that to his advantage. He's not fell for his provocation, and if they try anything, the right moment is now, as they return from the royal city. It would be better if there was some kind of internal collaborator, and he smirks, telling Truno this is his time to make a choice, wondering if he will make the upcoming incident the peak of the family's downfall, or the signal marking the start of the family's resurrection plan. The flashback ends, and Ryun says that up to this point, everything is according to his plan. But Truno starts to apologize to him over and over. Ryun tells him just to move according to the plan, and as this is the only path for him to be forgiven. He says this is good, and with this, the first growth condition is complete. Truno arrives where he's supposed to meet them, and as of course, Sons is the one greeting him, saying he's worked hard, and he didn't expect he would appear personally. Considering the nature of this deal, it's a trade involving none other than the grand overseer of the family, and for him to sell some of his own. Truno says that his words are too harsh, but Sons tells him that he hears the barking of a dog that bit its master. If it betrayed its master, he should quietly accept the consequences, and the information comes from the promised intelligence by Asanga, meaning it's verified information. Truno asks if it's truly reliable, and Sons vouches once more for Asanga, saying that they are a prestigious family in the continent, and renowned for assassinations, and information trading is also their main business, so they would never sell false info to begin with. It also contains sightings of the missing direct heirs of the Sermon family. Ryun says now he understands why Truno betrayed them, and he sold him off because he was an incompetent heir, and went after his missing brothers so they could properly lead the family. But even if Asanga had the information, Truno wouldn't have survived the Fadden family, as they would have preemptively set the highest price with their wealth. Sons says that's all for now, since he finished his task well, then calls him a traitor. Truno tells him that he better keep his side of the agreement, and Sons says of course, his precious soldiers will be sent back to the Sermon family without incident. As Truno starts to ride off, Sons smirks, telling his men that his plan was to kill the Sermon family, and leans close to Ryun, and as his men ask if they need to deal with him, but he says no, even if they returned, they are already doomed, and by now the Sermon family must have realized he is the culprit, so he must return to the Sermon family for the grand plan to proceed accordingly. The men ask Sons if he will do this himself, and he says of course, and as he grabs Ryun's hair, he says he waited here, and even bared with staring at that traitor, just for this moment. Eventually Ryun slowly opens his eyes, and Suns asks if he is starting to understand the situation he is in. Ryun looks around, seeing himself in a familiar room, and as Suns tells him that he really can't hold back his laughter. For the direct heir to be reduced to this state, it sure is amusing. Ryun asks what he is doing, and Suns tells him that surely he is not dumb enough to not understand the situation he's in, since he has been kidnapped. Ryun asks if he understands what will happen next, and Suns laughs, asking if he is trying to threaten him, and just like at the banquet. Ryun smiles, and Suns gets in close, grabbing his hair once more, and saying that it seems like he heard a few things from his brother, but he already told him that there is nothing he can do without his family. He starts beating Ryun, and saying that this is his fault for messing with the Fadens, and that is why he ended up here. If he doesn't find it suspicious that he was in a carriage surrounded by his men, then there is only one explanation, and that's because Truno sold him out. Just for a single piece of information about his brothers, and then there is no one now who can save him, so surely he knows what will happen next. It's a war between the two families, and kidnapping him is the foundation. Ryun says that idiots like him only know how to run their mouths, and he starts to release a green aura, and getting rid of his body control skill that he has been hiding his true potential with. Suns looks surprised, and Ryun says that with this, his magic circle is now activated. The circle then appears at Suns' feet. He starts to panic, and Ryun says he's waited for this day since returning to Drea. Suns panic to ask what's going on. Whenever he tries to move, the circle follows him. Eventually, he stands there, and realizes that nothing at all is happening, and asking if this was just for him to buy a few seconds. Ryun calls him an idiot, and saying that he already told him that he talks way too damn much. The circle then appears on his throat. When Suns goes to speak, he can't. He starts freaking out, and Ryun tells him that this is the silence magic circle, and that his upper magic circle in his head is now sealed, and that a mage who can't chant sure does seem funny. He then starts to use magic himself, and saying that he can just use fire bolt that needs no chanting. Only up to the third circle can be used without incantation, but he also can't use lethal magic because he's under his father's orders. As he starts to prepare the spell, Ryun says that he can tell that he doesn't want to die for disobeying his father's orders. Meaning that he's stuck with low tier spells, and that's not suited to his level. Sun shoots out the fire bolt, hitting Ryun's leg, and saying that his father will definitely forgive a broken leg at least, but his smirk instantly turns into that of fear. Because the fire bolt spell leaves no impact on Ryun's leg, as we see that he has successfully resisted it. Suns then tries a higher tier spell, and Ryun says it's too bad he already wasted his last chance, there's no way he'll just take that. He then puts a spell above his, and blocks it. Suns feels a sharp pain in his hand, and Ryun says this is called mana disruption. Suns drops to his knees, but of course he can't scream. Ryun says the moment a magic of a certain level is cast, he will nullify it instantly. No matter what he tries, now it's useless. Suns bites his lip, then pulls out a blade from his coat, and points it at Ryun, but is surprised as Ryun breaks free from the shackles. Ryun says that it's too early for him to be surprised, and because breaking these chains is child play for him, and that the magic circles don't stop at just 2. He casts another one, paralyzing Suns. For some reason, Suns can scream now. Ryun smiles while he's screaming out in pain, saying he can't wait for him to wake up, and look around, because this time the roles are reversed. Sometime later, Suns slowly opens his eyes still hazy, and Ryun's throwing his dagger into the air, asking if he's finally coming around. He was out for so long he thought he'd have to wake him up, then tells him that his dagger is quite nice. Suns now can tell that his hands are chained up, and he can't break free. He goes to call out to Ryun, and realizes that he can speak. And since these are iron chains, rather than mana restraints, he can easily get out of this. He goes to cast a spell called Wind Cutter, but feels a severe backlash instead, and Ryun says that surely he didn't think he was dumb. Sun starts to try to understand what's going on, because there's no magic circle anywhere. And Ryun tells him that he would never bind a mage without any countermeasures, and he already drew a magic circle all over his body. He then cuts across Suns' chest, and when Suns looks down, he sees a mix of his blood, and a magic circle carved onto him. Ryun says that he of all people should know about the forbidden art of carving circles into flesh with scars. It is the blood circles effect. He etched it onto him before, used a spell to force him to endure the pain. This all happened to a 12-year-old boy. Suns asks how he knows this spell, and starts to tear up, since according to the reports, he shouldn't be able to use mana as well. Ryun says thanks to his memories of his past life, and his time in Ideon. But 3 months ago when he acquired the monolink method, he focused first on leveling his concealment skill. Getting other skills wasn't hard, and thanks to the secret of circuits he learned in Ideon, to which every skill has its own circuit, and mana is injected into a player's unique circuit to activate said skill. Only those who reached master player like him can perceive circuits. He still remembers every circuit of every skill he's acquired. So he doesn't need to study or train repeatedly to gain a skill, he only needs mana and qualification. Once he does attain the requirements, he obtains the skills instantly. Using the concealment skill, he slipped out of their land bit by bit, and remembering every detail of this place, he pre-installed traps with skills ready to catch Suns. He's glad that he walked in so easily. He tells him that this magic circle was originally meant to amplify the pain he planned to inflict on him. And now he can worry about how it'll feel on himself instead. We hear him letting out some blood-curdling screams, and Suns eventually begs him to stop, and saying how bad it hurts. Ryun says that they'll call it a day. Suns thanks him, but before he finishes his sentence, he says he refuses, as his men will be here soon. He's only telling him this because he stopped the torture. Ryun says that he knows it'll be in a week, and Suns is surprised, asking how. Ryun says that he dragged it out a week just to enjoy torturing him alone, and he told his men to come back then. Suns asks if he wasn't unconscious at that point, and tries to lie, saying they'll be here at any minute. Ryun tells him to keep trying to bluff. And in the first place, a Faden would never warn someone else that their men were coming, and that he'd usually just clam up, and beg for his life. That way when they do arrive, they'll kill him. That is, that he knows for a fact that they are not coming. And he knows the one who will be coming are called the Fingers of House, Faden. Suns tells him that it's true. Ryun then hits him with that backhand front hand technique, and due to the mana circle on his chest causing him to feel double the amount of pain, he starts screaming out. Ryun says that he already promised he won't lay a hand on him today, so he's going to leave just like this. Suns screams while crying out for him to stop. Ryun says that they should get ready to go welcome their guest. Because against the elites of the Faden family coming in a week, not a single mistake will be tolerated. We get the fated week later as they arrive in front of the door, asking if this is the place. His men say yes, and it's been a week since the young master kidnapped the Sermon family brat. But he's entered this place. With no contact at all, they reached out to the Lord with no response. The dude from the Fingers asks if anyone else approached this place. They say no, and as they were keeping a close watch on all the passages here. The Finger says that if he got too carried away with the torture games, it would cause an accident, and that the family head's orders are to bring the brat back alive. So he's going to go in. One of the men tells him that Suns said they weren't allowed to, and the Finger tells him that he only listens to the Faden head, and that's it. He breaks the door open, saying he'll be going in alone so they should wait outside, because they'd be in his way. He says that something feels strange, and there's an ominous presence, but no mana can be felt. He then looks up, spotting a lot of magic circles, and starts to backpedal to distance himself, but they are already placed on his feet. He casts barrier to block the attack from above, saying that this is the worst, and something must have happened to Suns. He uses a detection spell, and now can tell that it's a trap linked by triggering a magic circle, and he knows the layout of this place well, meaning that the opponent is no slouch. He laid traps like this at every passage, and he wonders if it's the Sermon family, or a third party. He casts double barrier, and continues walking downwards, saying whoever it is he doesn't have the time to deal with them one by one, whoever it is he'll make sure they regret daring to pick a fight with somebody of the Faden family. Down in the prison cell there's a whole pool of blood, and Suns is bleeding profusely while still chained up. So much so that his white hair has been dyed red. The Finger then blows the door open, and yells out for him. He starts breaking the chains, seeing the state he's in, and asks what's happened. He goes to tell him about the situation, but has trouble speaking. The Finger grabs onto his wrist, and says that his magic power is definitely Suns's. But wonders what on earth happened. Suns tells him to give him a recovery potion, but the Finger says getting out of this place comes first. The enemy hasn't shown themselves yet, so it's dangerous. There are tons of traps on the way here. He spots Ryun, saying that if the bastards subdued the young master, and tortured him, but didn't take the brat, that means rescue isn't the only goal. While the brat is bait, he can't abandon his mission either. Suns then tells him that it's him, and the one who left him like this is none other than Ryun. The Finger then uses magic, saying that he'll make sure nobody but him can move. As it's called complete binding, it's a 7th circle magic. He starts to cast that on Ryun, but Ryun appears behind him on the ceiling, saying that he's way too cautious. He then tries to change it into a fireball, and explodes the ceiling, but realizes that it's illusion magic. He then starts to spit up blood, saying the backlash from canceling a 7th circle chant is too much for him. Ryun starts taunting him, and saying that mana reflux sure does hurt, but a grand mage like himself will recover in no time. If he sensed something off when he entered the room, he should have taken him out first. The finger calls him repulsive, saying that it's laughable he's trying to charge at him with illusion magic when he himself is a master of them. He casts a spell to delete all the illusions, and as some of them fade out, Ryun charges in with the dagger he got from Suns. His gaze meets the fingers, and the finger readies himself, calling Ryun cocky. Then kicks him in the face, causing Ryun to drop the dagger, and fly backwards. He says that there's no way he thought he got caught off guard with that, and even if he melts half of his face, the family head will let it slide. That was probably his last trick, and if he had a better ace up his sleeve, he would have used it before rushing in, and asking why he's taking his family so lightly. He then looks down, spotting the dagger fade out, and realizes he's been had until he gets hit from behind through the throat, and it was none other than Suns. The finger asks why he would do this, and we hear Ryun's voice, and saying it's the kind of pointless arrogance he can't overlook, and wondering if he's ever heard of soul transfer, and it means that Suns' soul is trapped unconscious in his body right now. He figured he couldn't kill him because of the family head's orders, and that this circle has a blood magic circle drawn onto it with not just pain amplification, but other spells engraved too. A magic that sends one soul into another, and controls the body is his real ace that he's been hiding. The finger in a last-ditch effort casts a spell, and we see a giant explosion before his mask flies onto the floor. Of course Suns' body doesn't come out of this unscathed. As he walks over to the finger, he says he got exactly what he wanted, and crouches down, taking out a potion from his pockets, then pours it on himself. He gains the pain-resistant skill, and it levels up. He says it hurts, but it can't be helped. He needs visible wounds on the body to make it look like it was friendly fire, and he starts to smile before laughing, saying that he actually did it, and he hunted a 7th circle archmage. While he's celebrating, a status window appears, and saying that he's leveled up due to the quest being completed. Ryun says he understands the level up, but not the quest thing. He then sees that his level is now a whopping 15, and saying he jumped 13 in one go. He expected it since he defeated an archmage, but still, he wonders if it's because of that quest earlier, then says there's something he needs to hurry with first. He casts another magic circle, and starts dragging the finger's corpse around the corner. He says that whether this succeeds determines how much his future plans will be shortened. Circuits are engraved on the soul, and not the body, and that's why even though inside of Suns' body, he can use his own mana. Now if he pours mana into the prepared circuit, the level will go down based on how much mana disappears. His level decreases by 5, but an additional condition has been fulfilled. The status window appears in front of him, and he looks a little surprised to see that he's unlocked something called Shadow. It's a hidden class of the Assassin class, and it can be obtained by reaching Agility 20, and Mana 15 before reaching the class change level of 5. Ryun says that it was a success, and with the remaining levels, it means he can do it 2 more times. He says he can do this as lightning starts to form out of him, and this time a blue circle appears, and his class change was successful, and he's advanced to the upper class now of Necromancer Hand of Death. He says that out of the 2 chances, 1 succeeded, and honestly the original plan was only up to this point, but after defeating the finger, his level rose much higher than he expected. If he can use the remaining levels to succeed at a 3rd class change, and he can obtain the hidden class Ghost. He says normally Ghost is a class gained when someone who is both Assassin and Necromancer unlocks their sense stats, and the best class that helped him rise to the top entity and was none other than this. Its synergy with Necromancy and Assassination goes without saying. If he obtains Ghost just like he did with Shadow and Hand of Death, it'll be smooth sailing, but the problem is from the results of studying class circuits, the key of getting the upper class of Ghost is the size of the soul. If he fails with his current level, he doesn't know how bad the backlash will be, but if he succeeds, his plan will be flawless. There's no time for him to hesitate. His level decreases by 5, and he starts to feel a sharp pain as his soul has been wounded, and it needs rest for recovery. He starts screaming while fighting the magic circles, saying that it feels like his whole body is being torn apart, and he wonders if the upper 3rd class is impossible. He then looks over, spotting his body, and the flashbacks roll in of how he lived his life, and all the torture that he experienced, as well as the deaths of Alejandro, and Sanaa, and her final moments. He grits his teeth, saying that even if he must offer up his soul, he will obtain the upper class of Ghost. He starts to force the magic power to coalesce into one, causing the pressure it's exuding to slowly decrease until it groups into a more condensed form. The status window appears, saying that he possesses a soul of a sufficient size, so now the hidden class is opening. Ryun just begs that it is the one he needs. Of course, he gets an upper class of ghost itself called Phantom. He looks genuinely surprised, saying that he's never seen this class in the entirety of Ideon, but since it's the upper class of ghost, many things should be similar. He's now obtained everything he's wanted, so he can continue carrying out his original plan. The original passive ability of Ghost is strengthening at the Necromancer's summons, and killing a 7th Circle Archmage was also to execute this plan. He hopes that the precious material he just procured will endure, and if this succeeds, his plan will be shortened by a very long time. He uses the skill Lich Creation, and he says normally it would require a Necromancer of at least level 70, but with a 7th Circle Mage as the material, it's possible. The eyes light up, but the status window tells him that Lich Creation has failed, and so it will do a special undead creation instead. Ryun looks surprised by this as a purple and black aura starts to seep out from the body. He smiles, realizing what's happening as it stands up in front of him, and taking a whole new form. How did it turn into a woman, bro? But now his special undead creation has succeeded, and she smiles as it asks if he would like to name it. Outside of the tower there is a massive bright light peering out of it, and soon an explosion follows. All of the men of the Fadden family wonder what that sudden explosion was, saying it might be the young master. They then spot him slowly walking forward carrying Ryun on his shoulder. They're surprised, but Ryun inside of his body smirks, telling them that this is all the Archmage is doing. They ask what he's talking about, and he asks if he's stupid, saying that one of their people betrayed him, saying surely they can tell just by looking at him. Fortunately he's bound that bastard with an artifact, but it won't hold for long, and so he will take Ryun and leave this place. He needs them to buy him time to return to the family. Then he will send reinforcements immediately. Until then, if they manage to keep his movements restrained, there will be a great reward for everybody. He starts to haul cheeks, and as the rest just watch. But some time later we learn that this was all a report given to someone else. The man reads it all, and we learn that this is another 7th Circle Mage from the family named Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus says that no trace of the other mage was found inside, and then grips the paper out of frustration, saying that if the contents of this report are true, it's actually a good thing for them. He asks the man if he's the only one who knows what happened that night. He says he and his group are. The other knight behind him then slices him, and starts killing him on the spot. Pyrrhus says the disappearance of sons is a serious matter, but it will be troublesome if it becomes known that even the Fadden people were involved in the kidnapping of the Sermon family head. A man outside tells somebody to stop right there, and so Pyrrhus wonders what's going on. When he exits, what he sees is Alejandro slowly walking forward, exuding hella aura, asking what he could even do if he wanted to come in, as he can kill all of them if he wants. Pyrrhus tells him that entering the other family's territory without prior notice could be pretext for war, and Alejandro says that war is something that they started first. He needs to bring back young Master Ryun to him at once. Pyrrhus says this is no more than just a suspicion. Alejandro points out that a fire in this border region just 1 week after Ryun's disappearance was seen, and as well as a suspicious structure, with an underground facility. The Fadden family must have set up this camp right in front of them just for this reason, and anyone can see they're trying to cover it up. Pyrrhus says they truly don't know the whereabouts of Ryun, and more importantly Fadden's young master sons is also missing, so they ask for cooperation in the search. Alejandro tells him to shut up, causing Pyrrhus to get annoyed. Alejandro warns him that he will not allow him to interfere with the scene until their investigation is complete. He starts to release his aura, and Pyrrhus matches. We see Truno from afar watching, saying that for the Fadden troops to appear here, he hopes this doesn't escalate into an armed conflict. Sana asks why he thinks he can run his mouth carelessly, calling him a traitor. She says if it wasn't for the young master's message, he'd already be a pile of ashes, so for now he should stay silent unless it concerns the search of the young master. Truno says that Ryun himself said he'd leave behind a trace, and she asks if it's meant to be in a place like this. He says that it probably is, but if it was so easy to find, the Fadden family would discover it first. He said only the Sermon family's cultivation method could locate it, and since Ryun succeeded at least once, the resonating nature of the technique should remain even if faint. Sana then starts to scan the area, and saying that she finally found it. She then teleports, but it seems like Truno is with her, asking what the hell is going on. What they see before them is sons chained up from a tree, and leaking the aura that Ryun used to make them track him. They say that they came here looking for Ryun, but instead it's only sons, and written on the cloth covering him says, "I am the kidnapper, please punish me." She then spots a letter beneath a rock, and walks over to it. Truno asks if there's any traces of Ryun here, and she tells him there's a letter. He knew that she would be the one to find it. He considered taking over Sun's body, and destroying the family from within, but as an 8th Circle Lord, the Faden family head would likely notice the soul transfer, and if he returns as Ryun goes back to the Sermon family, it could spark a war between the two of them. The current Sermon family can't afford it, so there's only one other option. Before disappearing completely, he must leave an explanation that Sana can accept when she finds him. Truno asks what the letter says, and she burns it, and saying that they need to return to the family immediately, and as there's going to be much for them to do from now on. Meanwhile, while they're heading back, it takes us to a town, and as we see a boy running, someone calls him Ryun's name, and telling him that the leader is looking for him, so he should go to the guild. Truno asks her what's going on, and Sana says that she is certain now, and as Ryun calls the man uncle, he smirks. Sana says that she's assured the young master is Dria's dragon. What's with that goofy-ass haircut though? We get a whole 3-month time skip as Ryun has been hanging out inside of Fainton, one of the royal capital cities of some other kingdom. Someone begins talking about the confrontation between House Faden and Sermon, and apparently the cause of the confrontation was that a traitor from House Faden kidnapped the last bloodline of House Sermon. In the end, House Sermon accepted reparations from House Faden, and they couldn't find the culprit with the kidnapped son, so they have no idea why they would accept it. It's been a while since their family had the so-called gold dragon went missing as well, and they used to be a prestigious house, but now they've completely fallen. Inside of an alley, we are introduced to the Assassination Guild, and their branch inside of the city. The guild is called Martin. Turns out the rumors are being told to this woman, and they say it seems that they're in a situation where they need the compensation money more than their own remaining bloodline. The woman thinks about it, saying that's pretty boring. Her name is Sapphire. She is a second-class assassin, and the branch manager. She says that this is all stuff she already knows, and the man says, what about the news that Sermon's manager Truno was executed? It was revealed that he cooperated with the traitor from Faden, and Alejandro executed him on the spot by beheading him. She's surprised that a swordsmaster, when there's so few of them, would do it himself. The door then opens, and Ryun enters. They call to him, and Ryun greets the man, calling him Mr. Duns. Duns asks if he's here to see the branch manager again, and they head upstairs as they talk to one another. She tells him that today's the day, asking if he knows what this letter is, as it's his recommendation letter as an official member of their Martin Guild. Ryun smiles, saying that he knows there's still more tests. She says that's true, and it'll be his first real mission, but for him she wonders if this test is even meaningful. Even though they are a prestigious house of assassination, and the 4th largest assassination guild, for someone like him who reached the final test in just 2 months, she doesn't know if this test is good enough as he is, and she's just glad that a great talent has been born in her branch, the shortest time on top of that, and the youngest official guild member in the last 100 years. He says even so he's still a long way from a second-class assassin like herself. She says that's just fake modesty, but his expression is better than when they first met, and that time sure does fly, and she can't believe it's been so long already. And while it's not well known, he showed up quietly at the Assassination Guild, and pushed a huge sum of money requesting an assassination of them. Ryun says that he heard they take any requests as long as there's money, and when he actually confirmed the payment, she treated him like a client. She said that it wasn't that she changed her attitude because of the money, she just had a feeling she'd never meet such a peculiar client again. A kid in rags brought an enormous amount of money, and made a request to assassinate himself, so it would be more strange for her not to be interested. Ryun smiles, saying that he'll check the letter by himself, and to call him again when it's time for the test. She says alright. After he leaves, a man appears behind her, asking if she really accepted that kid to the guild just because of that feeling. She says no way, and surely they know what happened after that. He actually joined Martin, and finished all the assassination training in 1 month, the same training that's supposed to take a minimum of 5 to 10 years. He's that kind of talent, and surely he investigated him properly. We learn that his name is Cal. Cal says that he has no last name, and he was found on the streets, then raised by an unknown master. One day his master disappeared, and then he joined this place to find information about him. The notable part is his assassination request on himself to prove his worthiness to join Martin. Thanks to that, his skills were verified, and he passed the training quickly. She says that's all the information they heard from Ryun, and she doesn't know whether it's true or not. Cal says that it is true. He went to the place where he said he lived with his master, and there were traces of someone having lived there until recently. She says for now, even if that's true, the most important thing is she wants to know what the possibility that Ryun is the same as Ryun Sermon, since the missing young master of House Sermon vanished, and a mysterious boy the same age appeared here around the same time. She doesn't think it's truly a coincidence, and it's been bothering her. Cal says that the possibility of them being the same person is low. She asks why, and he says that it's a well-known fact that Ryun lacks not only mana, but also swordsmanship, stamina, and everything else. This is the result of their observation for intelligence-gathering purposes since his birth, and the downfall of Sermon. True, because of him, there's no way he's the same person as a talent like the Ryun they have now. But if she wishes to continue to track down that lead, she cuts him off, saying it's enough. We see Ryun is actually overhearing their conversation, and she says that she can't be using a talent like him on such a useless task, but to look into the kid's master more, because if he really raised Ryun, he must be an extraordinary individual. Ryun says her intuition is unnecessarily sharp, but a necromancer's skills sure are convenient to him. Any place where souls exist, he can gather information through their eyes and ears. He says he might as well look at his stats, and when he opens the status window, we see it's progressed quite a bit. The levels he lost from the class change have returned, meaning it was worth investing his mana into body control. It goes beyond simply changing his appearance, he can also avoid mana detection. He's also reached a level where he can deceive a second-class assassin's form detection. On top of that day his summon shrank to a chibi. She asked what her name was, and he gave her the name of Kornik. She nods, and then Ryun opens her stats, saying that her strength is 7, agility is 5, mana is 23, her skills are Fire Bolt, and Soul Shield, but it's all just like a player's, meaning that she is an undead capable of growing. He wonders if this is the power of a phantom. He says that it wasn't in the skill description, so he wants to take a look at her circuit real quick. He starts to analyze it before he gets caught off guard by a status window giving him the quest called Avenger. The reward and description are both question marked out. He says that he thought that he wouldn't get another quest, and moreover it's one where the player has to find it, and complete hidden conditions. He definitely saw a quest completion notification after defeating the Archmage, and that whole group of events led to what gave birth to her. For now it's just a mana-guzzling monster, and a burden that he has to share his experience with, but a day will come when she will be genuinely helpful. He heads out onto a rooftop, saying that growth is something where he has to look at the future, and not the present. Duns asks what he's thinking about so hard. Before the testing grounds, Ryun says he was thinking about passing the test to become an official guild member, and one day becoming the branch manager. Duns says that with his rate of growth, it's a dream he could achieve. However, there are 3 candidates today that he will have to deal with, and only one will pass the test. This is the final test to become an official member, and a 5th grade assassin. We are introduced to the 2 other contestants named Paula and Lin. Duns says that among them only the one whose assassination is the target will become the official member. Duns says the test will start now, and he first wants them to tell him about the target's information. Lin starts saying that his name is Alec, and he's 47 years old. He's a merchant who runs a decent shop. He's always escorted by 3 mercenaries. 2 of them are bronze-ranked warriors, and 1 is a silver-ranked mage. Paula chimes in saying that there's a rumor he's recently taken a young concubine, and he visits her bedroom every night. During that time, even the mercenaries don't go close. Duns only told him the target's name, and they have investigated well. Assessing the guard situation, and finding a way to avoid them is good, but what guarantee is there that the target will go to the concubine's room? Paula realizes that there's no guarantee, and then Duns asks him if maybe he can handle all of his guards as well. Of course he can't, and he tells him that this is why their Martin group is so focused on gathering information. He then asks Ryun if he'll share the info he's got. Ryun asks if he has too, and this annoys both Paula and Lin because they could be beneficial to them. Ryun says that it's not like they'll all become official guild members if they work together, and it's a test where only one person can pass, and he doesn't see a reason to share the information. Paula and Lin say they both shared theirs, and they're comrades after all. Ryun says he doesn't recall learning about camaraderie during their training, and they're just both stupid. Duns says that he's right, and it's a test so it's good to use individual abilities, but what's more important is to pass by utilizing what you've learned in training. Duns says discarding or using others as needed is the way of assassins, and it's an answer that seems to cut out the core of what it means to be one. He asks if either of them have anything to say, and they say they don't, and he tells them from this moment forward they are free to assassinate the target. As they all fly off, Duns says that he sure is a promising one. We get a flashback to when he was first introduced to the group, and how he requested that they assassinate him. Sapphire told them that 4 fourth ranks and 3 third ranks will be mobilized for this request, and the time limit is 3 days. The location is limited to within the capital, and if they succeed they'll get 100 bonus gold, but if they fail the condition is that the kid will join their branch as a special grade trainee. Dunn says she must be out of her mind, and the other assassins agree, saying that they'll find him very quickly. Of course they all failed, and they say that his traps and tricks are no joke. Sapphire says that a promise is a promise, and she'll start his training from today. Dunn's thought it was as good as done because there was no way he'd become an official assassin with Sapphire being the branch manager, and she's the most difficult one they've had so far. But back to the test. We see Ryun running along a rooftop. But for Pulla it's not going as well as he gets thrown out of a bedroom window, and when he lands he says that he's disarmed all the alarm and mechanical devices, and he is avoiding the mercenaries. But of course he says that, and even more have turned the corner, he realizes he made a mistake. Lin watches as they all jump as shit, and she calls him foolish, but she says that, thanks to him things will work out well, and if he hadn't been discovered she would have made sure he was. Though the target has received numerous assassination attempts until now, the place Alec has hidden each time is his main wife's bedroom. We see her saying that she's sick of it, and as if bringing in a concubine wasn't enough, he's brought in an assassin now. He tells her that's not it, and the assassins aren't his fault, but this room is perfectly safe. Lin says the defenses are certainly better than before, and the number of mercenaries has increased, but the ones that are usually with him have all rushed to Pulla. She can feel around 5 ordinary soldiers' presence, and that means it's worth a full frontal assault. Alec then starts shouting asking what somebody is doing, and that it's dangerous, so they need to put it down immediately. Lin's confused, but what she sees is his first wife saying that she tried to be patient, and he used so many words to soothe her over, but he ended up taking money from her family again. Alec says this is because his business funds were low, and she says that the money he received from his in-laws was used as a gift for his concubine, and then she stabs him straight through the chest. Lin is surprised, but then his wife's body starts to jitter as she drops the knife onto the floor. Finally she starts shaking and crying, wondering what she's done, and she screams. The men run in asking what's wrong, and Lin can't believe that he was killed by his own wife, but she doesn't know if this is a success or a failure, and come to think of it Ryun hasn't appeared yet. She heads back to the rendezvous point, and says that the request has failed, and that Alec was killed by his main wife and not them. Ryun smiles at Duns, but Lin is more confused on why Ryun is here before her because in the first place she doesn't even know if he went with them. Pulla returns but injured, and Duns says he's glad to see him. Pulla says the mercenaries started fighting amongst themselves, and he barely managed to escape through an opening. Duns says now the test is over, but the assassination wasn't a failure because Ryun completed the request. Lin asks what he's talking about, but she witnessed it herself, and the wife was the one who killed him. He tells her that this was Ryun's doing, and they're both confused, but he explains that Ryun made his wife take care of him. Duns asks him to explain, and both Pulla and Lin say that he's going to answer that smug look on his face, and he says that he'll tell them how he did it, and that the solution was placed between Alec and his wife. Pulla asks if he's saying that he took advantage of their domestic situation, and wonders if he was given separate intel from them. Ryun says he learned Alec was the target at the same time the rest of them did, and he's a well-known merchant, so identifying him from name alone wasn't difficult, and according to the intel they brought, it's true that he recently had a new mistress, and the info about the guard's ranks in the mistress's room was also correct, but he had already finished digging into those details himself while they were still figuring out how to kill him. He simply acted according to the plan he had already prepared. Pulla and Lin realize something doesn't add up, and they say that Ryun said he didn't know who the target was, and ask how he could have finished investigating Alec before the exam, and he says that he never claimed that, and that he gathered information on everyone in the city with a bad reputation who could possibly become his target, and he approached merchants sensitive to rumors, and collected everything in advance. Because he finished the 2-month training in just one, he used the remaining time to prepare assassination plans for every imaginable target, and he made sure he could respond immediately with whoever the target turned out to be. They both realize they've been completely outclassed, and Ryun says that while doing that he found someone who held deep resentment towards Alec, and it was his wife Kelly. He reached out to her while she was mentally cornered because of her husband, and he proposed that she should hire the assassination guild, and he kept ignoring her, and bringing in the mistress, and he did all of it with money he received from her family. Kelly hated him enough to kill him, but she didn't want him to actually die, and he told her that if she hired extra mercenaries, and reinforced security, Alec would remain safe, and only be frightened, and when he rented the safest room in the house, which was the wife's room, That way she could frame the commotion as a scheme orchestrated by the mistress, and another secret lover, so he would come to his senses, and return to her. She took the story way too easily, and if things had progressed only to that point, everything would have turned out exactly as she wished. Right before the assassination began, he told her one more thing, that the money he used to meet his mistress, and to buy her gifts was entirely taken from her family under the pretext of business funds. Dunn says that from the very beginning he and every one of the contestants have just been inside this kid's hand, and they realize there's nothing they can say to refute it, but Dunn tells him there's something he just can't accept. No matter how furious she was, for an ordinary woman to stop her husband's death seems a bit off, and that's why he helped her a bit. He mixed an alchemy potion into the liquor delivered to his home, and to avoid casualties he mixed them into the water the mercenaries would drink too, and thankfully it seemed the timing was perfect. Lin asks what kind of alchemy potion, and Ryun says it clouds judgment for a while, and makes people easily enraged. Paula says that must mean when the mercs were fighting amongst themselves it was also his doing, and Ryun says he wasn't taught camaraderie, but he didn't want fellow trainees or guild members to die. Both Paula and Lin realize they've been foolish in their thoughts about him, and then Dunn says that in short everything unfolded exactly as he thought, and with the drug enhancing the effects of the information he leaked, Kelly killed Alec just as he planned. Lin says that for an assassination to have happened without him requiring to hold the knife himself sure is crazy, and Dunn congratulates him on passing the exam, and Ryun says they should be able to collect the commission fee plus extra from Kelly. The fact remains that the assassins broke in, and only they know that she killed Alec, not the assassins, and from her perspective she would want to cover up her husband's death as the work of assassins, meaning she'll pay more. Dunn is surprised that he thought this far ahead, and once more Lin and Paula realize his level is way above theirs, and from an assassin's point of view he handled this perfectly, and they decide that competing with Ryun is pointless, and they should just aim for second place instead. Dunn tells the rest of them to return to the guild as he needs to speak with Ryun separately, and as they head out Dunn asks if he understands what he's done, and that Kelly must now live the rest of her life filled with guilt over killing her husband, and wonders if he can imagine how a normal woman would feel after doing that, as their guild raises assassins and not monsters. Ryun says that until he learned why Alec kept bringing in mistresses he viewed her as a normal woman too, but every mistress he brought in was killed by Kelly, and behind the liquor trade Alec handled drugs, loan sharking, and gambling, meaning countless lives were destroyed by him as well. Kelly had been disposing of those women using her family's influence, keeping her own hands clean, and Alec was sick of her, yet he kept bringing in more mistresses knowing they would be killed, and Kelly's family forged their deaths and disappearances, so the victims' families are still searching for them unable to find peace. But these details are only information uncovered in the investigation, and even if it's an exam it was still an assassination request, and whether she wanted her husband dead or not the guild only gets full payment if he dies, and whether the target deserves death or not the assassin doesn't consider such things. If conscience interferes with assassination it doesn't mean it stops being murder, and he wants to know if he should focus on motives or methods when they kill for money. Kelly herself said she didn't want to kill him, she just tended to use the assassinations, and they simply completed it, and an assassin was undeniably involved in his death, and even if she must suffer forever knowing she struck them below herself, that's the consequence. Dunn asks if he's saying that conscience has no place for them, and Ryun says that if he wants to keep his humanity he should grow strong enough to change the system from its roots, because no matter how much he searches for conscience while carrying out requests, as long as he acts under the guild nothing will change, and then he hops off the wall. Back at the guild we see Ryun wearing the guild's uniform now, and Sapphire congratulates him for passing the test, saying from this moment on he is a full-fledged member, and a 5th grade assassin. His quest has now been completed, and his level has been increased, and he has achieved a bonus quest, and he has gained the respect of Dunn's, Lin, and Paula now, so he gained additional experience points. Sapphire says from now on as a 5th grade assassin he can accept official requests from the guild, and if he meets the conditions he can also apply for a promotion. She goes to talk about the conditions, but he cuts her off, saying that he successfully completed a single request worth 30 gold or more. She's surprised that he knows, and then he says that it's either that, or he successfully completes 10 5th grade requests, or receives recommendation from the branch head, or 3rd grade assassin, asking if these are the correct conditions for a promotion. She says that's correct, and then Ryun asks how much the payment was for the request of Alec. The other members get annoyed, wondering what he's doing, and Ryun asks her once more how much it was. She looks a bit hesitant to answer, saying there was an advance of 10 gold, a completion payment of 10 gold, and the 10 gold he received from Kelly on the condition of concealing the murder. Dunn starts to piece it together, and realizes exactly what Ryun was planning, and Ryun says that even considering that it was a test, he's already fulfilled the conditions. He was the one who brought in the request, completed it, and received the additional payment, and the first promotion condition has already been cleared. She gets a little annoyed, and he tells her that he would request promotion to 4th grade. She stares at him annoyed, saying that he's being too arrogant, and Ryun smirks. She says that she acknowledges all the impressive feats he's shown, but he's looking down on them way too much. An organization has its own rules and principles, and among assassins it's only from 4th grade assassin upwards that they are truly considered legitimate, and everyone builds their experience and skills, and gets verified among their peers, and takes pride in having risen the ranks, yet he's disregarded every single bit of that, and although his conditions aren't perfect for promotion, they have been met, but acting in this manner will only earn him resentment from everyone else, and it must be because he's tired after his first mission. He says that's not it, and he will not withdraw his promotion application. She turns confused, saying that if he wants to live properly here he needs to learn some tact, and Duns then says that it might be presumptuous of him to say, but he does want to say something given his role as a supervisor during the test. She walks over to him, telling him to go ahead, and he says he believes Ryun is fully qualified to take the promotion exam, and it's absolutely not because he looks down on them, and most importantly he showed the most crucial thing in this test. She asks what he's talking about, so Duns tells her that he's talking about pure physical capability. He didn't deviate from his plans, and he used only the assassination skills that are befitting of someone of their guild. Paula and Lin have nothing they can say about it, and he says coincidentally the 4th grade promotion test is something impossible to pass without physical ability, and this is a chance to gauge just what level of skill he possesses, or it could teach him a painful lesson. The other members say that this makes sense, and even during the tag game when he first requested his assassination he mostly used traps to make them lose. She agrees, saying that that makes sense, and she'll grant the promotion test, but it's something even fully prepared assassins must risk their lives for, asking Ryun if he's ready for it. He shakes her hand, saying of course he is. That night Duns tells him that shit had his heart racing, and it was way too reckless, and Paula and Lin both say that he must only be acting this way because he has a plan, and Duns says that the 4th grade test won't be held for at least another month or two because a suitable request and target must be designated for the test, and that he can train him until then. Ryun says he will pass, as he plans to rest until it's time, and they ask what he's talking about, and he says that he plans to be away from the guild for a while, and now that he's a full member it's okay for him to leave the branch's territory. Duns says that's true, and Ryun tells them that he intends to return before the test, and he can check the news about any updates by stopping by the branch. Duns asks if his plan this time is just to leave the guild, and Ryun smirks, confirming it. Duns says that he can do as he pleases, and they should drink their fill tonight, but the other two tell him that he can't offer any alcohol to Ryun. If you've watched till the end, comment misery to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.